One of the more under-publicized pieces of language learning advice is how to narrow down your conversational focus. It's much more practical to be able to use a few simple verb forms fluently and naturally than it is to be able to wrap your mind around complicated grammatical structures that might throw you a little difficulty in trying to have a real conversation. We get really used to being able to rattle off whatever thought or opinion we have in our native language, but it's going to be a very long time before we're able to do that in our second language. And many of you might not want to take that time before getting out there and really communicating with people. What this means in practical terms is that we're going to forego complexity in order to master simplicity. And we need to consider which verbs are used in the widest variety of contexts, as well as which verbs accomplish the most important conversational goals. Now, it might seem a little strange to think of a conversation as a goal-oriented activity, but that's really what it is. Even in the most basic small talk, you're trying to get to know somebody else or express how you feel about something, and those, when you think about it, are a type of goal. Making effective small talk is one of the most difficult things to do in a second language, even though it's one of the easiest things to do in your native language. So we're going to leave small talk aside for now and think about how to effectively use a few simple verbs in order to accomplish really important daily activities. It's much more important, for example, to be able to say that you need something than to say that you could delve into something or some other specific nuanced or abstract verb such as that. And so we're going to take a look at a few different circumstances in which a non-native Spanish speaker accomplishes a few of the more important daily tasks that are possible to have in a human society. The acquisition, preparation, and consumption of food is culturally universal, and it is really foundational to the lives of all people in all cultures and all languages. In these clips, we'll see how a non-native speaker with an inexact grasp of the Spanish language is able to accomplish these three goals in a Spanish-speaking context. In each situation, we'll see how this individual uses a limited number of verbs in a limited number of forms in order to express the needs, wants, and other such information that he has in these circumstances. This is meant less as a language lesson as a demonstration of just how little language can go really, really far in accomplishing what you need to accomplish, and that a more practical use of your language learning time, instead of memorizing long lists of words just for the sake of vocabulary practice, would be efficiently applying a limited number of words and a limited number of forms in the important situations. Let's check it out.
Buenos días, vecina.
Buenos días, vecino.
¿Cómo está usted?
Muy bien, ¿y usted?
Estoy bien, gracias. Quiero hacer una sopa. Necesito maíz, necesito zanahoria, necesito una de estas y una de estas.
Vecino, no se le olvide la papita.
Gracias, necesito papas. Oh, y necesito carne.
No, no tengo carne.
Ok, gracias. ¿Cuánto es?
Serían 7,500.
Necesito dinero.
El arroz está quedando delicioso. A la sopa le hace falta sabor.
¿Quieres sal?
Sí, gracias.
De nada.
¿Te gusta la sopa?
Me gusta, pero necesita...
¿Necesitas sal?
No, no necesita sal.
¿Le hace falta cilantro?
No, no quiero cilantro.
Ya sé. Le hace falta salsa picante.
Sí, me gusta salsa picante. Muchas gracias.
Now that was pretty insightful. That ignorant, inarticulate foreigner is able to accomplish a variety of conversational goals, all while demonstrating a fairly limited productive Spanish vocabulary. Note the contrast between the complexity of the native speaker utterances and the simplicity of the non-native speaker responses. While he may not have always understood what was being said to him, through an analysis of the conversational context, there's only a limited number of things that were likely to have been said. In addition, by filtering through the narrow conversational focus that he's brought to each situation, he's able to articulate a response that has a pretty good chance of getting across the idea that he would like to express. For example, when the shopkeeper uses the phrase, "No se te olvide la papa," she's using one of the more opaque and difficult to acquire Spanish verb forms, and it's highly likely that the non-native speaker does not fully grasp the grammatical significance of what was said to him. However, given the context in which the utterance takes place, he's able to hear the word papa, and because there's only a limited number of things that are likely to be said in that given situation, able to deduce the full extent of the meaning without necessarily understanding the grammar behind what is said. In addition, by processing his response through a narrow conversational focus, he's able to easily produce a grammatically simple Spanish phrase that gets across the idea that he would like to articulate in that situation. Also note how he doesn't even know the names of a couple of the things he's trying to buy for his soup. However, given the conversational context, it's quite clear what he's trying to do with those objects, even if he can't fully articulate what they're called. I want to emphasize that this is not an endorsement of having a limited Spanish vocabulary per se. Rather, it's a demonstration that you probably know a lot more Spanish than you think you do, and that by carefully considering the situation within which a conversation is occurring, you can get a lot of mileage out of the vocabulary that you already bring to the table. Don't let the fact that there's some significant gaps in your productive vocabulary discourage you from going out and taking part in conversations in the real world with native Spanish speakers. That's because the most efficient way of building your proficiency is by using the tools that you already have. And through repeated exposure to these kind of interactions, you'll be able to expand on your understanding of conversational context and expand your ability to use increasingly complex grammatical focuses. The amount of different conversations you can have in your second language is probably the best measurement of your proficiency in that language. And the best way of increasing that proficiency is actually practicing them in real-life conversations. While using our online resources or anything else that you can find out on the internet is a great way of developing your ability to hear, understand, and analyze Spanish, and book work can be very helpful in learning how to read and parse apart some of those sophisticated and complicated grammatical structures, the number one thing that will take your ability to use your second language to the next level is precisely that willingness to go out and use your language, no matter the level of proficiency at which you're starting. Consider some of this advice, think about the ways that you can apply it into your Spanish-speaking life, and I'll see you in the next instructional video.